What's up, everybody? I'm Walter Bernasiak. Thanks for checking out the Awesome Walter YouTube channel. You should go ahead and check out the top 5 best Keanu Reeves performances, which was just posted on Channel Awesome's YouTube page. If you saw that and you're here from there, let's get into comparing these two movies. The first one, John Wick, one of my favorite Keanu Reeves performances, versus Liam Neeson's magnum opus, we can call it, Taken from 2009. So let's get into comparing and contrasting these. We'll go into the John Wick movie first, then we'll go into Taken, and then we'll go into seeing which one is better at the end. So on that top 5 that just went up, I did rank John Wick as Keanu Reeves' second best performance, and it was very close between that and Permanent Record, which was number 1. This was kind of a pop culture resurgence for Keanu at the time. This was a perfect role for him at that point. The movie is emotional and action-packed. They had a lot for him to do. We always knew that he could do the action stuff. We've seen that in his whole career. And he does do dramatic stuff very well in certain situations. And this was the perfect area for him to blossom and do both of these things with a very simple revenge story about an assassin who retired, came out of retirement when these thugs attacked him and killed his dog, which was a gift from his dying wife. There's a lot to emotionally unpack in that character and in that movie, and Keanu did fantastic at all the big notes that he had to hit in it. One of the things I love about the John Wick character is that he doesn't have to say much for us to understand what he's going through. We have a lot of flashbacks at the beginning of the movie. We have a lot of just facial expressions from Keanu that show us what he's thinking. And I love that it's just all in his eyes. These extreme close-up shots in the movie when we see the assassin reawaken, or we see like the sadness in his eyes, or the rage or anger, all that stuff. He goes through the entire emotional spectrum in this movie, and it's just great to see all those things without him really even having to say anything, and that's the mark of a great actor. And Keanu was always great at having those kind of facial expressions, but I think now that he was a little bit older, he was about 50 years old when they shot this movie, the fact that he's older and there's more lines on his face and stuff, it gives a more grizzled look to the character, and it just works so well in John Wick. When the action scenes come up here, Keanu is great in them. I mean, how they're shot, how they're stylized, everything usually works really well in this movie, and it also did a great job at world building. I know that that's kind of a dirty word sometimes because people do that in movies, or creators or directors, writers, whatever, producers. They do that in movies nowadays just to try and build a universe because, you know, Marvel's a big deal and things like that. But this one actually did it really well with the Continental Hotel and all this sort of underground league of assassins that has been built up through the John Wick series. That has really blossomed into something great. So I think that is a definite point for John Wick, for the movie, for the series, for the creative team behind it. And since Keanu is the center of all that, it's just great to have an emotional center to the whole world and everything. So we're introduced to everything when John goes back into it, and that's really well done in the film. If you're a big action movie person and you love shoot-'em-ups and stuff like that, you're definitely going to love John Wick if you haven't seen it yet. I don't know who is that kind of person hasn't seen John Wick yet, but I mean, it's a great movie for those things, and it's a great performance from Keanu. There are like little issues I had with it. I mean, sometimes they go into this weird rock music stuff, which I don't think fits all that well with the rest of the movie, but I mean, that's just a small nitpick. The main villain, Vigo, and Theon from Game of Thrones, not the strongest villains. I mean, we didn't really need them to be super strong, though, because this was all about John just sort of coming back and getting revenge. We just kind of have to, feel sorry for John and feel like these guys deserve what's coming to them. So not anything great on the villain front, but it makes up for that with all the fight scenes and shoot-'em-up scenes and car chase scenes. It's all really well done. John Wick from 2014 is a great movie. It spawned the sequel, and another one that's coming out, I believe, next year, 2019, as well as the Continental TV series, which is coming out soon. So looking forward to more from the John Wick series, but as for this first movie, it's great, looks great, was a great story, very simple story, with some really good characters, especially Keanu as John Wick, and it's one of his best performances, and I think one of his best movies as well. So that's John Wick. Now, let's get into sort of the originator of this kind of thing in Taken. So when Taken first came out in the United States in 2009, it was a phenomenon. I remember just from the trailer that came out, that big famous line,
I will find you, and I will kill you.
really got people interested, and that was something that carried on for years and years after that. Obviously, there's a sequel to Taken. There's 2 sequels to Taken. The third one of which actually came out within months of the first John Wick movie. So, you know, they're kind of comparing that way as well. But Taken also, besides starting the big older guy action movie craze, it also started the career of Liam Neeson as an action star. Now, obviously, he was in, you know, like Batman Begins and all these other movies before that where he had to do some action stuff. Darkman, of course. Yeah. If you haven't seen Darkman, you should check that out. But Neeson didn't become a big action star with his own, you know, leading his own action movies until this came out. And he was already about 56, I believe, when this movie came out, so he was an older guy as well. It established him as an action star at a very late stage in his career, but he's definitely done very well. A lot of people love Liam Neeson for these kind of roles now. So since this came out about 9 years ago, I haven't rewatched it too much. I watched it a few times, and especially since the sequels came out. I actually never saw Taken 3, but Taken 2 I did see in theaters because I was a big fan of the first one. I really liked it. Going back to watch it now, does it hold up as well as I remember it? Not quite as well, but I do remember it being this big phenomenon when it first came out. I mean, it was a big deal for a while there, and a lot of people really, really loved it. One disadvantage that I think Taken had was that it was PG-13 while John Wick was rated R, so there's things that they could do and couldn't do, and I think there's an unrated version of Taken where they go a little bit farther with some bloodshed and some kills. It doesn't quite feel neutered or anything like that, but at the same time, you could tell that this kind of movie should have maybe gone a little bit further with some of the stuff that Neeson's character was doing. Now, seeing Brian Mills, Liam Neeson's character, in action here is always just so satisfying. I mean, a lot of the time to do those quick cuts, I think because Neeson's a little bit older, they had to get around if he was moving a little bit slower or whatever. But in this first one, it works pretty well. I mean, it's always satisfying to see him just knock a guy out or throat punch a guy or do whatever he does in this movie to get past him to find his daughter. We're definitely connected to his character. It's a good enough emotional center to where we're invested in what he's doing and we forgive any kind of extreme measures he goes to find his daughter. So Brian Mills gets pretty ruthless in this. I mean, he shoots his friend's wife in the shoulder and stuff. I mean, not that that guy was totally innocent in all this, but still, I mean, he went to some extreme measures to get the daughter back. It's just cool to see him hop around to these different locations. Obviously, most of this was shot in France. That's where most of the movie takes place. And seeing him sort of don these disguises to infiltrate the bad guy's lair and all this stuff and, you know, the seedy underworld and all that was also another fun aspect to it that we didn't really get too much of in John Wick. John Wick was much more straightforward, where Brian Mills in Taken sort of did a lot of underhanded different things to get where he was going and tried to pretend to be other people and did a lot more spy-type stuff. So that's points for that, absolutely. But in any case, Taken is still a satisfying action movie. I think it's sort of a trailblazer in terms of, like I said, like that older guy action movie type genre that we kind of have now. And it was pretty well done back then. Watching it now, like I said, doesn't hold up quite as well, maybe because we've gotten so many other things and certain, you know, aspects to these films have advanced a little bit further since then, but Taken is still a fun watch, but it was a huge deal when it came out, and rightfully so. Taken was a lot of fun to see in theaters, whether you like those 2 sequels or the TV series. You can't deny that this was a big deal when it first came out, and a lot of people consider this one of the best roles for Liam Neeson in his whole career. Now let's get into the comparison. So John Wick 2014, Taken 2009 in the US. These 2 movies are of similar genre with older stars. Like I said, Keanu was about 50 when they shot this, with Liam Neeson being about 56, so both in their 50s at this point. Both were big surprise hits that spawned sequels and TV series. When we compare the main characters, Liam Neeson's Brian Mills to Keanu Reeves' John Wick, I mean, without a doubt, I think John Wick's character is definitely better than Brian Mills' character. I think Keanu has John Wick as sort of just another role, another great role for him. And with Brian Mills, I don't think that's so much a great character for Liam Neeson. I think people just love it because it's Liam Neeson. And let me be clear here, neither of these movies are these big masterpieces or anything like that, but they definitely do very well at what they intended to do, which was entertain the audience and provide us with some really fun action sequences and sort of draw us in with an emotional center. A lot more happens in Taken than in John Wick. John Wick is very straightforward. It's a very simple story of revenge that John Wick goes after these guys who killed his dog, who beat him up and destroyed his house. With Taken, a lot more stuff happens because, you know, they start in the U.S., the daughter goes to France with a friend, she gets taken, of course, Brian Mills goes to France. He tracks everyone down all over the place in France, goes to all these connections he used to have as a retired agent, and he goes all these different areas, all these different seedy underworld places to try and find her. He goes on a boat. There's a lot more action set pieces, I think, or different varying set pieces in Taken than in John Wick, so more stuff happens in Taken for sure. But which film is better, Taken or John Wick? When we compare everything overall, the characters, the action, the emotion, everything, the story, what is better? So I'm going to have to say, not by a huge margin, by a pretty significant margin though, I'm going to go with Keanu Reeves in John Wick. Not just the performance, but the movie in general. John Wick, I think, is better than Taken. The emotion with the wife and the dog connection with Keanu actually, I think, beats out the daughter stuff with Liam Neeson in Taken in terms of the connection to the audience. And honestly, I remember liking Taken a lot more when I saw it a while ago. This is the first time I watched it in a while, and it didn't hold up quite as well as I remembered. So John Wick, I think, also has a much better sequel. I think John Wick 2 is definitely better than Taken 2. Although I did enjoy Taken 2 when I first saw it in theaters. I never saw Taken 3. But you bet your ass I'm going to see John Wick 3 when that comes out next year. The TV series on Taken I actually have not seen, but I'd be maybe interested in checking that out. If any of you guys have seen the Taken series, let me know, because that's something that I might watch if enough people like it. So also the Continental, I'm not sure when that's coming out, but that's going to be the John Wick series. That's not based on him directly, but more about that hotel that he goes in the first movie, and sort of based off the whole underground assassin code and all the different things that they have to go through to become an assassin in that organization. So that's going to be a really cool concept to explore more of, and I think that's one thing that people really liked about the first John Wick movie, is that it's sort of set up this entire world that we never knew about, of these assassins and stuff who have a code and have rules. So I'm really excited to check out the TV series. But in terms of the first movie, yeah, John Wick over Taken. No disrespect to Liam Neeson. Love Liam Neeson. Love Taken. Love him in Batman Begins, obviously. Love him in Schindler's List. He's a great, great actor, Liam Neeson is. So it's really cool to see him sort of explode as this action star in his 50s and 60s. A lot of people really like Liam Neeson, and I do too. So no disrespect to Taken, but John Wick wins. What is your favorite of these two? John Wick, the original, or Taken? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And what do you want to see next in the Versus series? Give me some suggestions below, and I'll take that into consideration. But like I said, if you haven't checked out the top 5 best Keanu Reeves performances, that's up right now over on Channel Awesome. I will be back right here next week with a brand new video on the Awesome Walter YouTube channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.